Live Bruins beat. Win streak's over. Win streak's done. 5-3 loss, not a 7-3 loss. 5-3 loss. We're always presented by our good friends over at Prize Picks. Use that promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And of course, CLNS Media. Make sure to go subscribe to Bruins Ringside. We're doing these all the time. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Podbean, and lots of other great stuff. Patriots are on right now. Patriots Press Pass, they're going to be doing a live show when that game is done. Hopefully the Patriots pull that out. Celtics All Access, they're always cooking. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That's Ty Anderson. Ty, what is up?
What's going on? Great idea to do this after a Bruins loss and a Patriots game. I was thinking maybe me and you can do another episode, maybe like when the Epstein files get released or something like that. Like really be on top of what the people are looking for right now.
Yes, yeah, this is exactly what people. You know what though, Ty? Like the people that are going to come in for this are dedicated. They can't like we're not gonna have the biggest audience tonight, and that's okay. But we're gonna have a dedicated audience. People that I'm not watching the Pats or anything, but this is what we want. I like this.
I mean, it's also another 4D chess move by Don Sweeney. You fire a coach in a Patriots parade, you lose the streak ending loss happens during a Patriots game. It's like it never happened.
News dump. No one knows that this game happened. It won't get talked about except for us. Bruins lose 5-3. Third period there, I was starting to believe. I was like, all right, this is, they've shown this. They fight back. Credit to them. And then and I thought when that goal went in from the point that was offsides, I was like, oh yeah, they're not winning this. They end up, tying the game, but it falls apart there at the end. 5-3 the loss. There's a lot of places we can start. Tough to end the vibes like this. Obviously, the vibes were sky high. 74-8. Jack D, you're right, still on the table. To me, what's interesting, the Bruins could not break out of their own zone tonight. Ottawa sat back, but was aggressive. I think it was a 1-2-2 from what I could tell from the TV. They were up on top of them. They stymied their breakout a bunch, even in the first. We're getting a lot of Mason Lowry was horrible. Not the best game from the Bruins D-men. It seems like that was a way for Ottawa to get on top of you tonight, and they did because they capitalized on a lot of those chances.
Yeah, Senators are an annoying team for the Bruins to play. I just think like they obviously have the high-end skill of Tim Stützle and even like Claude Giroux is good against him. But Claude Giroux on this team is a third liner. Shane Pinto's a third liner, right? Like they kind of have, like that late era Bruins depth, where they can move guys all around, doesn't completely, make or break their team. So you look at their lineup and like, it's not like an elite top nine, but it's a good, annoying top nine, like between those guys I just mentioned. Batherson is always good against Boston. Zetterlund, they have David Perron playing in a top nine role for them. Like they're a balanced team, but they get a bunch of guys that are like, I think they process the game really quickly, and they're very quick with their decisions and their vision. I think in their top nine, their vision is fantastic. Like they can thread the needle. And I think that's, when you can spread the Bruins out a little bit and get them kind of looking over their shoulder, that's when you can, get a lot of cheapies. And I feel like they got a lot of those tonight.
Well, it felt like even I think with this Bruins team where they lack skill, and they, I think when you make them overthink it, like you saw it on that some of those, I think it was Hampus Lindholm behind his own net that led to the fourth goal, where it's like when you make him and you make them think, where it's not just boom, boom, dump it in, chase, like put a guy through the glass. You can make them make mistakes, and you saw that tonight. And even also, early, like
they couldn't skate it out. So like you have to make those kind of plays, and it's almost felt like I remember watching the Vegas game, and it felt like Vegas was like trying to bait the Bruins into bad decisions, and the Bruins made bad decisions. It felt a little bit similar tonight, where it's almost like the Sens were throwing out the chum and waiting for the Bruins to bite, and they bit, and that's when they strike.
That's what happened. Yeah. And even earlier, like, I think it was VL kind of got caught trying to skate the puck out of his own zone after, I think it was Lowry who passed it to him. I forget which goal it was, but it was one of the earlier ones. And he's trying to skate it out. He gives it up, and then it ends up staying. I saw like Corpisalo, someone was blaming Corpisalo in the comments, and I don't think it was his best game, but a lot of those were just off turnovers. Like, I blame the D-men more. And the Bruins as a 5-man unit for not getting the puck out more than I blame him. I haven't looked at the advanced stats yet because if I do, my laptop will explode. But I saw that he had a bad expected goals against, I think. So, I don't know. Just a tough night. And again, they were due for a loss. They were 100% due for a loss. You win 7 in a row. This team had basically lost 6 in a row prior to this. So you were due. Annoying, though, because that you still had the trademark 2025-26 Bruins effort in this. You had Geeky and Pastrnak producing. You had fighting back. You had a good fight from Tanner Jeannot. You had a bad first, but a good second. Like, there was all those things. It just really didn't go your way in the third. It didn't go your way bringing the puck out. Like, I'm not overly concerned after this loss. I'm curious if you are.
Yeah, no, I'm not concerned. I think that, if you blew it against Toronto on Tuesday, I probably would be more concerned with that kind of loss, right? Where you're up 4-1, looking like an ass kicking, and then you blow it in the third. They didn't have their A game tonight. And I would argue they didn't really have their B game outside of a 10-minute burst in the third period. And it was 10 minutes, maybe closer to 7 minutes, honestly. But they didn't have their A game tonight. And this team, it's going to be hard to win on nights when you don't have it. And on nights when you don't have it, you better get exceptional goaltending. They did not, right? So it's kind of a toxic mix right there where you don't have your A game, the goalie's off, and you're, if not for 88, you're not in this game at all. That's what it feels like. And so, tough night. I just looked it up while we were talking there. An expected goals against of 1.35, and he gives up 4. So
okay,
pretty ugly night for him in that regard. So, and here's the thing with Corpisalo, and I think with Swayman, right? Like, you look at their numbers so far this year, and they're not overly impressive. I think situationally, however, they've been better than their numbers would indicate. Not the case tonight, right? And that third goal, I mean, does he have a chance on that? They go for a line change, and it's basically, the highway's open for the Ottawa Senators, and they strike. So he just didn't look like the Corpisalo that you've seen. Okay, we're down 1, we're down 2, it's 1-goal game. All right, here's that great diving, sprawling save. Didn't really see much of that in this game, it felt like.
No, you didn't. And I do wonder if this is one of those games where, like, I saw some people saying, like, why not start Swayman? Well, Corpisalo's been pretty good against Ottawa, and Swayman had started 2 in a row, and Sturm seems to be kind of doing that with the goalies and wants to have not a 1A, 1B, but not Swayman playing every single game. Mm-hmm. I do wonder if this starts a stretch where, if Montreal Saturday, I would bet anything that Swayman's starting that game. And then I wonder if they kind of keep him, not every single game going forward, but, starting the game after that, maybe do 3 in a row if he's playing well. I wonder if they start to move to that based off this game. And it's one bad start for Corpisalo. You can't, fault him for that. But I do wonder if Swayman gets hot off of this going forward, if they lean on him a little bit.
Also, Swayman's great against Montreal. Like, historically, I think he's only lost to them once or twice through, I think, 10, 11, 12 games, something like that. So he's been really good against Montreal. And I think that, he hasn't been good against Ottawa. Go back to last year. Swayman was not good against the Ottawa Senators. And he got the game where they hung a 7 spot on them. So I get maybe wanting to give a little bit of a different look. Corpisalo, his old team, maybe that motivates him, but I think you're going to need both goaltenders. I just think the way the schedule is, for better or worse, you're going to need both goaltenders. And that's why, it is so important that you're getting value add from Corpisalo, which you have for the most part this year. Tonight's a bad night, but you hope it's not the start of a cold spell because they can't really afford that, right? Like, I think the biggest thing for the Bruins, Evan, is that they realized a year ago that it's probably better to have some bullets left in the chamber if you need them in March, right? And so I don't think you want to have Swayman at like 48 games by early to late January. You know what I mean?
No,
like you want him, because if you got to lean on him, like the Winnipeg Jets used to lean on Hellebuck towards the end, where like, oh, we got to get in. So he's got to play 13 of the final 15 games. Like, you want to have some of those left in the chamber, so to speak. And so I think that's a big reason why you need to incorporate Corpisalo here and get him feeling good and get results. And it's funny, earlier you said, like, this was a typical 2025-26 Bruins game. And I agree. And I agree in a negative way because they fought like hell. They made it a game. They lose. They get no points. This team's got to get some loser points. They just do. Like that's the thing that's like killing me right now is that they're 19 games in and they're 11-8, and it's not horrible, but I would feel a lot better if it were 11-5-3, something like that.
Yes, it would. Wouldn't it look a lot like it is funny, even in the win streak, I'm like, all right, they've won 7 in a row, 11-7. Like it's fine, but like where are the 2 or 3 loser points? You're right. They don't get that. And this is what I thought they would be more often. And they still could be. I mean, it's November 13th. Like there's a good chance this happens a lot. They were always, as I said, they were due for a loss. The win streak was nice, but I think they're more closer to this. And there are going to be nights where they win this game, and there are going to be nights like tonight where they lose it. And they do it to themselves. Like tonight, to me, it felt like you did it to yourself. Because again, as you pointed out with the expected goals, Corpisalo did it to himself. The D did it to themselves, not getting the puck out. Forwards didn't help skating the puck out either. So like completely, like this is going to be them on quite a few nights. You're also going to have games when you win them. You have Montreal coming up. Then you're home against Carolina. Then you go out west. Ducks are rolling.
They're so good. They look
so
good.
So fun to watch. Oh my God. I love, growing up, the Anaheim Ducks were like my second favorite team because my cousins are from out there. And my uncle used to do like medicine, was like a doctor who would sit in it like every 5 games. And so I used to go to Ducks games like when I'd go out there as a kid, and I like loved it. So the fact that the Ducks are good again, just like, I don't know. I like that. I like it. It's not great for the league or anything, but I enjoy it. And the orange looks great. Fantastic.
They've become my my new late night game. I always watch the 7 o'clock slate, and then I'll pick a game at night. It used to be for years, it was the LA Kings. That was like the team that I'd watch at 10 o'clock, 10:30. All right, putting the Kings game on. The Ducks have become that team for me. And they were last year, even though they weren't very good. I really, I've been a Leo Carlson truther for a long time. Not that like you necessarily have to be. He's a top 5, top 3 pick, whatever he was. I think maybe in second overall. But like I was telling people, I'm like, this kid's going to be nasty. I'm like, just wait till he grows into his frame. He gets some more NHL reps. He gets used to NHL pace. I'm like, this kid's going to be freaking nasty. And sure enough, he's been great. But no, that's a hard trip. That's a hard trip. And, it's so funny. Like you look at the Chiron we have here at the bottom where it says Bruins 11-8, Senators 9-5-4. The Bruins have 2 more wins in Ottawa, but they have as many points. Like that's like what I'm talking about, where it's like you got to get some looser points up in there. Just to try to, separate yourself, have some wiggle room, right? I think it was the 15-16 Bruins, or 14-15 got knocked out because Detroit was better at losing in overtime than them. They had like 15 OTLs or something like that, and the Bruins only had 8. It's like you can get boned by that if you're not careful.
You can. By the way, I agree with JMG Gillis. San Jose is my late night team.
That's a good one too.
Love Celebrini and Smith and Colin Graff. I mean, I'm a New England guy, a New England Hockey Journal, obviously. So like I enjoy it, but those 2, Celebrini and Smith, are a blast to watch. And they're not going to contend this year probably, but they're fun. They're like a legend that could. And those 2 guys are so talented together. Celebrini to me is like borderline generational player, and I'm happy to see how well he's doing this year.
So this is where it comes back to, I'm still a huge fan of if you got a little bit of defense and you get some goaltending, I'm in. San Jose, the goaltending's not there yet for me. Lucas Dostal, I think is super underrated in Anaheim. So maybe that's why I naturally kind of go gravitate towards the Ducks, much like I gravitate towards the Kings when they had Jonathan Quick all those years. I'm a sucker for a goalie. It's how it is for me.
I don't blame you. Aiden makes a good point. Bruins Senators first round, if the playoffs ended today, I don't like the Bruins' chances in that.
Not on the road anyways.
I don't want that. I don't want that matchup. Not in the first round, please.
They haven't won in Ottawa since January 2024. That's crazy to me.
Really?
Yeah, they lost every game up there a year.
Oh yeah, too. I remember that last year they didn't do well. Wow, January of 2024. We'll get into more Bruins stuff, but now we've got some good comments. JMG Gillis, if you have to choose Celebrini or Bedard for Team Canada, who are you picking? I would it depends what you need, right? Like if you need a sniper, potential guy for the power play, like probably Bedard, but I think all around you're choosing Celebrini. Like I think Celebrini
Yeah,
fits. He can play in a bottom six role. Bedard cannot. I would pick Celebrini.
I would agree. And that's kind of how it comes down to. That's what it comes down to as well.
This is what we do after losses, by the way. We talk about other teams.
No, I mean, they kind of have to, right? No, but I the other part of it too is Celebrini is a little bit bigger than Bedard, and I think that can matter. When it comes to how the USA is going to build their team. If the Four Nations was any preview, the Americans will have a bigger team. I think about, I don't want to compare Bedard to this player because Bedard's obviously got a few more miles to go here, a few more milestones to hit. But like Jack Hughes, borderline non-factor in the Four Nations. Smaller player, wants a puck on his stick a lot, is better going through the middle. You can put him on the wing, but he's better through the middle. Like I kind of look at Bedard in that same light where I'm like, unless you're killing penalties or bringing an edge that otherwise, whatever, like I think in that kind of role, like you got to be a do-it-all type, and I don't know if Bedard's that guy for me. So I'd go Celebrini there. The guy that I think that a lot of people are overlooking, the guy that I would want there, who didn't make it on the Four Nations a year ago, would be Mark Scheifele. Like I understand the question is Bedard or Celebrini, but I think like in terms of that bottom six kind of Canadian center, extra forward, Scheifele probably should play his way onto it based on what happened a year ago and him not making Team Canada. But, two guys leading the NHL in points, basically, it's going to be hard to say no to either one of those guys. But if I had to pick, I'd go Celebrini.
Yeah, I think it's hard to pick. It's hard for them to say no to one of them. But to me, I agree. Celebrini would be my pick.
Team Canada is weird, too, right? Because, like, this is the last run in the Olympics, we would imagine, for Crosby, for Marchand, probably for Drew Doughty. Like, do they look at it and say, this is probably Scheifele only way he's going to be playing for Team Canada? Like, do they treat it like a farewell tour for some of these guys? And if so, is that their undoing? Like, these things can often be sentimental, and they can be emotional. It's the same reason why like the Americans had a few guys on their roster. I was like, why is this guy on here? He's not playing well. Why is he on the roster? Like sometimes teams can kind of shoot themselves in the foot by being emotional. And I would just wonder, how many of those picks do you see on both Team USA side of things and Team Canada side of things?
Fortunately for Marchand, he's been great to start the year. So it's like, all right,
True.
that should be like no problem. And same with Crosby. Crosby's been fantastic too. So it's like, if those guys started out cold and weren't great and were showing signs of age, it'd be like, oh shoot, like they might just be kind of like sympathy picks, but they look damn good so far. So so far, I don't think that'll be a problem having those guys.
Crosby's just, I think, when I was middle school or high school or whatever, and Crosby came in, I was in high school, I was a freshman when he came in. I was like, "Boo, Cindy Crosby." And then you grow up and you realize how good he is, right? How good he is at faceoffs, how good he is between the circles, down low, protecting the puck. Like, he's he's one of these guys, man. I'm gonna be super bummed when he retires because I love watching him play.
I agree. And he's not the type of, I can attest with the kids coming up and watching them, like, they don't model their game after Crosby. Crosby's not the guy they model it after. It's a lot of skill. It's a lot of speed. The hockey sense isn't there as much. And Crosby has all those intangibles you need. There's a reason he's won 3 Stanley Cups. Bruins wise, back to that. Morgan Geekie for Team Canada. I love that speak. Pasternak's been cooking. Like, and again tonight, like your best player, I saw your tweet that was like, they should come over the boards just to be like, hey dude, great game. You're kicking ass. You're playing great. He's been fantastic of late. Was the other night against Toronto. He was again tonight. He has the goal, then immediately scores right after. His vision is just so damn good. Like even on the Geekie goal to the net, like a lot of guys just instinctively shoot that puck. He finds Geekie. And by the way, props to Geekie for being so good at getting open in high danger areas that I think is one of his most underrated assets. But Pasternak's just been phenomenal of late. And you see it in a game like tonight where it's like, oh, this is a Hart Trophy candidate.
Oh, yeah. I mean, without him last year, they're in the running for Schaefer. And without him this year, they're in the running for McKenna. I mean, he's been fantastic.
You got to
And
trade him. That's why you got to trade him.
I mean,
Goodbye.
this is sort of what I keep saying to people when they're like, "Oh, they got to tank it." I'm like, "Well, you got to tear it all the way down because this guy is too good. He still wins you games. He still gets you points. Obviously, tonight no points, but like he's an unbelievable talent, right? And I think what I like about David Pastrnak that I don't think gets enough play in this city, and particularly on the 2 to 6 show of the place I work, is like he competes, man. He doesn't give up. Like, and I think there are times in his career where he would make, more prayer plays than he should, but this man battles, right? And I think that's why, people all year were like, okay, McAvoy or Pastrnak for the captain, and they wouldn't even finish the question, and I'll go Pastrnak. Like, you watch him, watch his shifts, watch what he does. He's not floating. Like, he's using his frame. He's got really good IQ in terms of getting his stick in there to disrupt other teams on their breakouts, on their neutral zone decisions. Like, he's becoming a more complete player, right? And he's never going to be a Selke guy. I understand that, but I mean, the way he plays right now, the way he's been playing this season and last season, like, the weight of the world is on his shoulders and he can handle it. Like, that's what's super impressive about David Pastrnak. Like, these are not empty calorie points. These are like legit factoring in on the game, on a comeback, on an attempted comeback, putaways. Like he is the total package, I think, in that regard, production wise.
He is. And this is the other thing too, as you said, like this is a pressure packed time, and I don't think giving him the C would change anything. Like, it's not like, oh, you have the C now, there's all this pressure. Like, it just doesn't change anything. And he's been more physical too. You saw it last year. I think that was really out of frustration. But even this year, like finishing checks, he had a couple tonight that were really good. Like, he embraces that. And and the offensive game doesn't take a hit, right? Like, all the things you just mentioned, a lot of players would put up less points doing things like that, or score less. And he doesn't. That's all still there. And so to me, like, that's the biggest part with him. And I do think that you're seeing him. I don't know when the captaincy gets announced. I don't know if they do it at the end of the year. I don't know if they randomly do it in the middle of the year. That seems a little odd. But I don't know how he's not the captain. I don't know how you go in a different direction. I know Felger is always like, they must not actually like him. But I will say, I maybe it's me taking the cheese, but I do agree with Sturm, where it's like, I just got here. I don't know these guys that well. This is what he said in training camp. I can't just walk in and name a captain. Like, we've got to play games, and I've got to see it for myself a little bit. So I think that's what's happening, because Pastrnak, everything that we're seeing, that's a captain. That's captain.
Yeah, and I think, I would say this. I would read into this. A year ago, when they brought up Fraser Minton, they put his locker next to David Pastrnak's. Like, doesn't that kind of tell you how they view that player? Yeah. They like, what, Minton, we're gonna put you next to this dick. No, he's like, he's a guy they love. They love and respect him. And I think that's another thing with him scoring 400 goals. Like, they jump over the boards. Why? Because they like him and they appreciate him and they respect him. And after the game, you got guys saying, like, the way the example he sets for us is important. It's like, he's not that much older than you guys, and you're saying that, that's what I think people kind of at times don't realize, like, how much of a star he is and how much guys like him and want to be like him. And I say this to anybody who hates David Pastrnak. If you were to sit down in a room with him for 10 minutes, you'd love him. Just the salt of the earth dude. He's very unassuming by nature, I feel. And he knows he's a star, but he hates being told he's a star. If you say to him, hey, man, that was an unbelievable, top shelf snipe, you just won the game, he'd go, yeah, but I had a back check earlier that sucked, and I don't know why I did. Like, he's very much like that. You know what I mean? Like mentally. So I just appreciate greatness when I see it, and I see greatness in 88 every time he's on the ice almost.
Well, think about, for years, the criticism of the Bruins was like, they need a legit goal scorer. They need a bona fide guy who just knows how to put the puck in the net. That's him. And to hear people be like, no, he needs to be traded, or you're not going to win with him. Or like I heard recently, I think it was Felger and Maz, who were like, he's one of the all-time like stats, but not results kind of
Yeah.
athletes. Like, where is that coming from? That has no factual basis whatsoever. That I don't understand. And you're right. Like, you can't tank with him. I've said this all along. Like, if you really want to tear it down to the studs, you think he's going to let that happen? Like, you're going to have to kick him out of here for that to happen. And so that's
Right.
why, like, the whole idea of like, you got to pick number one, or you got to pick 2 or 3. Like, you can't with him in his prime. You can't
You just
waste
can't.
these prime years. First of
Yeah.
all, it's not possible because he's too good. But secondly, like, he's not going to want to be a part of that. Like, these were, and you don't want to waste these prime years. So
Mhm.
I always get
Yeah.
mad.
I think for me with David, things changed. Like things had a chance to change truly. It was in 2023. 2023, his game 6 is phenomenal. 2023, his game 7 is just as good. He's in line to score what would have been the game-winning goal. He's in line to have a 3-point night, whatever it was. Like, he was set up to be that guy, and things went down the toilet, and narratives have survived, and that's been a big bummer. For everybody who is like us and is like, no, he's a really good player. And I think that's kind of what, like, I think a lot of people don't understand. Like I think this sounds weird, Evan. I know.
Here we
Greatness
go.
sort of became old hat here in Boston because this era of Bruins fan grew up with Chara, with Bergeron, with Marchand, with Timmy, with Tuca. So like you just saw greatness and you're like, oh, this is what it's like. And I feel like people don't understand that, like, how good of a player David Pastrnak is. like if he were playing on like Nashville and he was on this contract, we would get calls every week on the Sports Hub being like, they got to rescue this Pastrnak guy out of Nashville. He's wasting away, but we see him so much that we find holes in his game. We can poke at it. We can say he didn't do this, he didn't do that. And I'm telling you, if they trade David Pastrnak, they are spending 30 years looking for the next David Pastrnak. They're not going to find the next one, not going to fall into their laps, but like, it's so funny. Like some of the people and how they feel about him versus like the reality of what he is and who he has been for this team for a long time now, especially since losing Marchand and Bergeron.
Yeah, I mean, if you did trade Pastrnak, you deserve to be in hell for 30 years.
Yes.
Like it's like the Red Sox trading Mookie Betts. Like, you don't deserve to win after that. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm with you. There's no, I remember even when the Bruins were losing earlier this year and it was like, they might be a tank job. It was still like, you can't let him go. Like, you cannot trade him. Because then you're in one of those 10-year ruts. You're a Buffalo now, where you don't have anything.
Yeah.
And it's down to the studs, and you don't really deserve a way out either.
And also, like, as we're sitting here waxing poetic about David Pastrnak, they lose the game, right? And this was sort of, it kind of exposes their worst quality, which is, one of their worst qualities is that when they're losing, it's hard to get guys that aren't Geeky and Pastrnak going. Like that's the frustrating part of where this team is right now, is that if you don't have more than 39 and 88 going, it's going to be hard to win. Right? In this win streak, they've had, the depth has been there. Kaslik has been scoring. He scores tonight, I know. But you've had goals from Asamont, from Hampus Lindholm. Arvidsson's been on a heater lately. Like this is at its core, their biggest problem is that when they lose, it's hard to find many guys beyond those top two, the big dogs, that have kind of gone above and beyond and delivered you the offense you need. What they finished with tonight, 19 shots. I would imagine that Geeky and Pastrnak had 8 of them. That's what it felt like watching on TV. I'd have to go back and look, but it felt like those were the only 2 guys they really had going for a while there.
Yeah, I think Bruins had 21 shots because Marilainen had 18 saves. So 21 shots. And, Geeky has 3 shots. Pastrnak has 3. They lead the team in shots. Zacha had 2. So yeah, no, I agree with you. Like, they need offense outside of those guys. I want to get into that. Kastlik had a nice goal there. That line with the toughness and everything was a little bit of a tone setter. But first, our friends over at Prize Picks were brought to you by Prize Picks. The hard-hitting football action is even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Hockey-wise, Morgan Geekie, I always say this, continues to produce. He continues to score playing with David Pastrnak. I like him more than 0.5 goals. And David Pastrnak can always be counted on for a point. So I go more than 0.5 points for David Pastrnak. Prize Picks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Want to pick more on Josh Allen's pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns? Now you can pick all of them in the same lineup only on Prize Picks. And Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. And if you get your picks right, you cash in. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. I will say this. I said this after the Leafs game the other night, and we've seen this more and more throughout the year. The piss and vinegar Bruins. They're tougher. They're in your face more. They stand up for each other. And I'm a big speed and skill guy. You need to win with speed and skill. You need talent more than anything. But even tonight, they had a little bit of that toughness, and it did help them at times. They had some tone-setting shifts. I'll give them that. They did the other night against Toronto. I think, again, I say this all the time. They play the right style for this roster. Like for what they are, for the skill set that you have with this team, the toughness angle, you saw it, I think it was Kastelic took out, was it Nick Jensen? And the second period, like that's the game they have to play. And I think that those bottom 6 guys are at their best when they're doing that.
Oh, for sure. And I thought that was probably the biggest thing that they did have going for them prior to Geekie scoring the first goal of the game was that they were able to, that they were able to establish themselves physically, right? And I always use the term tenderize, like you were tenderizing the defense, make it so they don't want to go back there and have to get the puck, right? They're a little bit reluctant to do that, and you wear them down and you strike or you draw penalties, and the Bruins are able to do both of that. I think the Artem Zub penalty, the interference call that he took against Geekie in the third was a byproduct of the Bruins have been battering us for 20 minutes. We got to return the favor. Like that's kind of what it felt like to me, just watching the game, and so it's such a part of their identity, right? And I think that you'll take it, right? Like the you're in it, so it's got to show up, and I feel like that is an encouraging sign. When they were losing 6 games in a row, I remember they had that game against Florida where they give the goal with like 25 seconds left, whatever it was, and they lose the game.
Skate.
Yeah, but that whole game, I kept going, where's the P and V? Where's the hard out? I'm not seeing it from a lot of these guys you brought in to be those players for you. Tonight you go down by 2 and boom, it's there right away. It shows up right away. So like I like that. That's encouraging for me in terms of where this team could be going under Marco Sturm's, tutelage. The fact that they were down and immediately it was defaulting to the physicality, right? Like that was important. So I like that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good thing. And again, like I say it all the time, like this is what they are. This is what they are. They don't try to play a speed and skill game. They don't try to do that, and they shouldn't. They play a heavy game. They're not quick. Like this is what they do, and I think that's a good thing. It hits at this. So 7-game losing streak. People aren't gonna like that. 7-game win streak. What are they from here? Like I didn't have them in the playoffs to start the year. I still kind of want to stick to that and say I don't think when all is said and done, I don't think they end up in it. I think they're contending late. I think they make it interesting. I still think they're more in the middle than they are second or third in the Atlantic. But what do you think? Where are you at with them?
It's so hard to say, right? And I think it's hard to say, if only because I got to see how they utilize their roster. Like my biggest concern is that they're going to grind the top dogs into dust. I just, McAvoy's at 25, 26 minutes every night. It feels like Zadorov was at, I think 23 tonight. Lindholm was over 20. Like at a certain point, the ice time is great, right? Like in terms of like these are your number one guys, you want to ride them, but at a certain point, you get diminishing returns. Like if it's if it's the third game in 4 nights, like I don't know if I can. I don't know if I want my number 2 and number 1 defenseman each logging over 22, 23 minutes on the third on a 3 and 4. It's just that's too much, right? And that opens the door to injuries, opens the door to nagging, sort of bothersome things like the Lindholm injury, which was a nagging injury. It was early in the year, but it was like, hey, some days you feel good, some days you don't, right? And if you got 3 or 4 of those happening on your roster and they're your top players, it's going to be harder to win games, right? And so I think where they are right now is where they're going to be in terms of like the jockeying up and down. Some nights you begin in third and in a wild card. Some nights you begin in second and in third, or vice versa. Like the East is kind of mediocre until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
Like it's just, I'm not seeing a team right now that a team in the East, I should say, that I look at and go, oh, you can't beat them. Like, no way. No way you're beating them. Everyone has a fatal flaw right now. I watched the Lightning and the Rangers on Wednesday night, and it's a great game, but that Tampa team that I picked to win the East gives up, 6 goals, 7 goals. Like, okay, that's not impressive, and the Rangers, a team I thought would have a strong bounce back. They haven't been good, for the most part. Like, so it's hard to find a team right now that I go, oh, you can't beat them. No way. Like the East is kind of mediocre.
It is. I mean, again, you have a 3-way tie technically for first place in the Atlantic. You, Ottawa, Montreal have 22. Montreal, by the way, lost 7-0 tonight. So like
division leader, Montreal, by the way.
Yes, division leader. So like they're not untouchable. You're playing them Saturday. Want to also shout out Roast and Toast. Roast and Toast has been bringing it with stats tonight. Bottom 6 has been pretty good this season. Even strength, expected goals, 4 percentage. Corrali 55, Kaslik 55, Mitten 52, Gino 49. Roast and Toast has been bringing it with stats, so I very much appreciate that. Robert Chalmers, need more jam. Damn right, need more jam. Always need more jam. Jam is the answer. Yeah, I don't think they're ever like next to the bottom in the Atlantic, like Toronto is right now. The Leafs, you and I have not discussed this, so I think it's a good time to talk about it now. Like they've been struggling. Matthews is out a couple games. 8-2, 18 points. Last I checked the other night, they were like the 6th overall, or not 6th, 8th overall pick projected now on Tankathon. Does this continue for them? Because if you're a Bruins fan, you got to be hoping that it does.
Yeah, I mean, they lose again tonight to LA. They were held to just 15 shots too. So things aren't going well. I don't know what you do. Do you pull the plug on Craig Berube already?
You mentioned that the other night.
I mean,
like, what
else can you do?
Second year? Is this just second year?
Yeah, but what else can you do? I mean, if you pull the plug on him right now, you have Pete DeBoer, who's a head coach who's been to the Stanley Cup final. Like he has great luck in game 7s historically. Like you're not going to find a better head coach on the open market probably than Pete DeBoer, unless Paul Maurice gets fired. Like, so what do you do?
Yeah.
I don't think you should fire Berube, but you're not trading Matthews. You're not trading Nylander. Your defense is what it is at this point. I don't know what other lever you can pull unless you just fire the GM and start anew there, which you did that a few years ago too. So like I don't know what you do, but they look like a broken team right now.
The roster is flawed. Like this has been the case for 10 years now. Their roster is always flawed.
Yeah.
They don't have a goalie. They don't have a legit number 1 defender. They try to trade for guys and try to, sort of number 1 by committee on D. It never works. And they didn't really replace Marner. So that's lost offense. So it's a flawed roster, like Trevelling, and it goes back to Dubas too. By the way, Ty, very hard for me to drink water and not just spit it out in the room that I'm in. Just like
yeah, I hear that's been going around lately.
Very hard. I don't know. I almost got the bug. It just starts spewing water everywhere.
Why are you trying to get me in trouble? Why are you trying to do that to me? I'm good to you. I'm good to you.
Well, you know what? I was drinking the water and I was like, "Oh, that'd be. I should say that. That'd be pretty good."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, whatever. I can't talk about
Just spew it. It is. Someone said, "What's your guys' prediction for Saturday? Did the Bruins get the win over Montreal?" They are due now to start going back and forth with wins and losses. Like they shouldn't immediately jump into like a 4-game losing streak. This shouldn't be the whole season. So like, I think they have a bounce back. They fight hard. I will give them that. Like I think they have a bounce back against Montreal on Saturday. Swayman will go back in, and I think they have a bounce back. I think they have a bounce back game.
Yeah, I mean, Montreal's also lost 4 or 5 now. They are playing really leaky right now. They're also just not getting any luck at the other end offensively. So you can look at that one of two ways. They're in it. They're in the mud right now. And, the Bruins are going to be the next team that comes into Montreal and smacks them around. Or they've had 5 games of crap luck, and now it's going to finally turn the other way, and they're going to beat Boston. I am not a Montreal believer. I'm just not. I look at this roster. I look at their goaltending. I'm not overly impressed. There's something about this team that does not really, I don't know. I'm just, what
they're still young. They're very young and skilled. They are a few years away.
And they've kind of been, to a certain degree, they've been a bit of some overtime merchants so far. I think they got 5 wins. 5 of their wins have been in overtime. 5-on-5 is a lot different than 3-on-3, and if you're a speedy skill team like Montreal, 3-on-3 is a delight, but 60 minutes, the game's going to be played at 5-on-5 or 48 minutes of it's going to be played at 5-on-5. So, you factor that in, there's something about that team that until proven otherwise, I'm still going to doubt them right now. It's just how I feel. I like their future, but their present, I think there's still a lot to be desired there in terms of me buying in on them being, a legit contender in the Atlantic as a true number 1 team. Again, I like what they have, but when you have Suzuki and Caulfield and Hudson, how many more players are we talking before we're like, oh, Alex Newhook? It's like, okay, sure. I don't hate him, but I'm not like, oh no, here comes Alex Newhook. Everyone look out. That's just kind of how I feel about their roster right now. Similar to the Bruins in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I don't know. I love speed and skill, but they are all young. So it's going to they're not going to just immediately hit. They're going to have ups and downs. And I don't think they end up number 1 in the Atlantic. You also have to consider, I know Florida's without Barkov and without Kachuk right now, but they're due to move up in the standings at some point, you'd have to think. And they already kind of are. They're 6-3-1 in their last 10. Tampa was the team everybody picked for first. They're, set a third from the bottom. I think the Atlantic's interesting because you have a lot of these teams like Montreal, Ottawa, even Buffalo and Detroit for that matter, who have good young talent. And at some point it's like, is it going to hit for those teams? And early in the year, it looked like that was the case with Montreal. It hasn't been the case of late. You see nights like tonight with Ottawa where it's like, ooh, okay. Like Stützle, I love Stützle. Like that guy's nasty. But yeah, no, it's the Atlantic is kind of mid. So far, it's been all over the place. So yeah, I mean, you're not wrong to think, hey, look, the Bruins could end up near the top. Like they are, if defense, goaltending, and toughness and trying to keep games low scoring is their route, like that probably does win over younger teams. So, and again, for all the people who are like, oh, the Bruins need to lose, that, I want to tank for a high draft pick. You just need to make your picks. I say this every show. You don't necessarily need to draft 4th overall. If you're drafting 14th or 18th or 12th, you're getting a good player there. At least you should be. And that's on your drafting, that's on your developing, but you should be getting a good guy there. So at this point, it's like, don't be asking for them. Don't be wanting for them to tank. And my favorite thing about the whole tanking thing, Ty, is this city combusted last year, during all that. People were like, yeah, I don't even want to watch the Bruins. It's not interesting. I don't want to see them, whatever. Imagine a couple of years of that. No, thanks.
No, and that's what ownership will tell you too. Ownership.
I know I sound like Jacobs. There you go.
Yeah, ownership will tell you we don't want to be irrelevant, and if we go in the tank for 3 to 4 years to acquire draft picks, we're going to become irrelevant. And people kind of forget about that the Boston Bruins, they toiled for a long time. They toiled, while the Patriots won 3 Super Bowls and the Red Sox broke their curse and the Celtics were building something, the Bruins were doing a whole lot of nothing, empty buildings, like it was not ideal for them. And I think, once they got a taste of success, 2007 to 2011, it was like, oh God, we don't want to let go of this feeling and go back to the dark days, of having bands play during intermission to try to get people in the building. Like that was a real thing. They had Dropkick Murphys used to play. Yeah, Dropkick Murphys would play at games to get fans in the building. They would do
I
this.
didn't know this.
Oh yeah, no, it was a real thing. I want to say like, I might be wrong here. I want to say like Godsmack played at a game too. Like it's something like that. Like it was a band like that. It may not have been Godsmack. I know Dropkick Murphys did though. They played. They set a little stage up on the Loge, and they played like after a game just to get people in the building. So anyways, but that's the thing that they had to do. They don't want to be irrelevant. So they don't want to tank, right? And everything I was just saying about Montreal, by the way, I think you can apply to Boston. Like we're talking about the East right now and why it's good or why it's bad. Like I am naturally, Evan, going to default to the teams that have done it before. I'm not panicking about Tampa Bay because I've seen Tampa Bay get it together. I'm not panicking about Florida because I've seen Florida get it together. Teams like Boston and Montreal right now still have to prove something. I think why I don't believe in Montreal is, they don't generate enough. They don't generate enough 5-on-5. So they have to rely on their power play. Much like the Boston Bruins right now have a top 10 power play. They don't have enough at 5-on-5, but they make good on the power play, and that's how they win games. And so I think right now, like we usually say, the line of demarcation is November, Thanksgiving. I think this year it's January 1st. I think January, maybe the Olympic break might be the new way because there's a lot of teams right now that have a lot to prove that haven't proved it yet. So the window, I think, is greater than it would be in years past.
It is. It absolutely is. I think that's the thing that the Bruins, again, they had this win streak. I'm very curious to see these next 3 upcoming games, then that West Coast road trip, what they are. I think we're going to have a pretty good idea around Thanksgiving, but I'm with you. Like they could fall off later in the season, or they could get really hot and be good. And we're sitting at the deadline like, all right, who are they getting? And how many picks do you want to potentially part with? Friendly reminder to make sure to go subscribe to Bruins Ringside on YouTube. We do these all the time now. Podcasts all the time, analysis, breakdowns, all that great stuff. And if you don't like watching us, you just want to listen, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that, go subscribe over there. And then lots of other great stuff. CLNS 2, Celtics All Access, Patriots Press Pass. I know Patriots Press Pass will be going live soon. Patriots, I think it's 24-14 with like 9 minutes left in the fourth. So I'm not going to say it, but like should be good. So make sure to go check those out over there. I heard there was a thing. Someone told me this. I didn't remember this. The Bruins back like in the time you were talking about had a deal with Dunkin' where if you bought 4 tickets for $99, it was like 4 for $99 and you got 4 more for free. So it's like, I didn't know that was a thing. So you got basically like 8 tickets for the price of 4. And it was through Dunks. And I think that's just hilarious.
Yeah.
Don't have that anymore.
Listen, at the end of the day, I'm eternally grateful because I was able to become massive, like hands-on at every game, because when I was in high school, tickets were $10. If you were a student, tickets were $10 and they were available, Evan, every game, $10 tickets, last row of the balcony. It was awesome for us because we all had just crappy jobs, working at Dunks or working at Chick-fil-A or the Burlington Mall, Sears, whatever. And you work one shift, you can go to 3 Bruins games. It was great. I loved it, but yeah, they had all kinds of packages. They had all kinds of deals just to get people in the building, right? And I remember, like, you go to a Boston-Montreal game and, 05 to 07, you were outnumbered by Habs fans. It was like 10,000 Habs fans, 7,000 Bruins fans. And it was embarrassing. And I think the Bruins are cognizant of that, and they don't want that. Money is money, sure, but you don't want to risk fans becoming apathetic to your product, which is a dangerous game to play.
Well, I think they also, when they constructed this team and Jets fumbled, Pats recovered. Thank you, Aiden. I don't have the game on, so hell yeah. If you want to play by play in the comments, you can. I think, when ownership talks about and Cam Neely talks about playing to that identity that they're playing to right now. I think they know that even if they don't have the speed and skill, they can roll out a tough team. They can roll
Mhm.
out a team that chucks knucks and big hits and all that stuff, and fans are still going to be interested in it. It's still going to be a watchable thing. And I find myself even being like, this is kind of fun. Like, I don't mind this, like
Yeah.
Nikita Zadorov mixed up. By the way, Zadorov's been fantastic the last
Mhm.
couple of weeks. He's turned into the guy that I think they wanted to sign. But yeah, no, they, now they've got 12,000 people on a waiting list for season tickets. So how the times change. Ty, what can people look forward to from you over at 98.5?
Well, on Saturday morning we'll have the hockey show 9 to 11 a.m. Join myself, Bob Beers, Ryan Johnston. We'll have you covered. We'll talk about the week that was, what's ahead for the Boston Bruins, and then just all the coverage we have at 985thesportshub.com. Obviously, on nights like tonight, it's going to be Patriots heavy. Both Alex Barth and Matt Dolph will have you covered on that front. And then, we'll have our corner of Bruins. We'll talk about the game, about some things that are surprising us and whatnot, and then go from there. I'm learning, Evan, that in an 82-game season in an Olympic year, written content, the shelf life has never been worse. It has never been worse than the shelf life you have right now, because what's true today will not be true tomorrow. It is a very unique year to cover, but I will take this trade-off every time for NHL players in the Olympics. It's a damn shame it's been so long since we've seen it, and I can't wait for it again, because the Four Nations, what a primer that was for the Olympics, and got you so excited for the amount of young talent that these countries now have, that they didn't have, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Look at a Team USA roster from 2014, and then look at the one that's going to go to Milan for the Olympics in 2026. Night and day, the style of hockey that those teams will play. And it's going to be so much fun, I think.
Well, this goes deep into the weeds, but like, look at the ADM model, the American Development Model. Like, it's all about speed and skill. I look at James Hagens, like he is the embodiment of that, like that kind of player.
Mhm.
There are a lot of guys with that skill set on the Team USA roster. You go back 10 years, 15 years, it's not guys like that. It's two-way forwards. It's gritty grinders. Like, that was
Mhm.
America forever. So it's changed, and they can compete with Canada with skill. I know Court Lalonde might disagree with me. Love you, Court. But it's true. They can. And I agree with you. And like the Four Nations last year, the amount of friends I had who were not into hockey, but then got into hockey because of Four Nations, they were like, oh my God. Like, I have a roommate who like now is with me watching Bruins games.
Mhm.
Like, and he was not a year ago, but Four Nations was so electric. He's like, this is unbelievable. I think Four Nations really opened people's eyes to that, and to see it so highly rated. And I think you'll see it again this year with the Olympics, where people are into it, and you'll have USA, Canada, and people going nuts. And honestly, the Four Nations was great because it was like, you have four countries that you definitely care about hockey from those places. You want to see what they do. You obviously want to add a Russia for sure. But it was so cool. It was so cool. And I miss those times, but we'll get it
Yeah,
back this year, which is great.
2014. I mean, talk about the Team USA prototype for a player. David Backus, Ryan Callahan, Dustin Brown, um, Brooks
Dustin
Orpik.
Brown. Oh my
Like,
God.
you know,
Yes.
they Ryan Kessler, and Kessler was good, but they clearly loved that two-way gritty hit and block shots model more than anything else back then. And now it's totally different. Now you have like maybe one or two guys that are going to do that on Team USA, it feels like.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, Ty, this has been fun. Love to have you on for one of these after a win.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that'll be the goal going forward. But that's Bruins Beat. I'm Evan Marinofsky. Bruins Beat listeners, have a great rest of your week.